Hey guys, hello sleepy history enthusiasts, and welcome back to our quiet corner of the internet. Tonight, we're not just telling a story, we're stepping back in time, dimming the lights on the modern world, and easing ourselves into the ancient rhythms of a civilization unlike any other. So go ahead and find your coziest spot. Maybe you are already tucked into bed, or perhaps you are simply unwinding after a long day. Dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, or let the gentle patter of rain outside be your soundtrack. Let the world outside fade away and let's ease into tonight's journey together. And as you settle in, take a moment to let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from and what time it is for you. It is always a quiet joy to see how far these stories travel, bridging the distance between us. A quick like and subscribe is always appreciated, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here and want to keep these sleepy historical deep dives coming. No pressure, just a gentle invitation. Tonight we journey to a land of iron will and stark simplicity, a world forged in discipline, where every comfort was a weakness, and every indulgence was a step toward ruin. We're diving deep into the life of a Spartan soldier, exploring not just what they did, but what they were strictly forbidden to do. It's a fascinating look at a society that deliberately stripped away the pleasantries of life, all in the pursuit of an unwavering, unyielding ideal. A Spartan's life was a masterclass in deprivation, a deliberate emptying of the senses to sharpen the soul. So, let's close our eyes, open our minds, and drift back to a time when the taste of blood was more common than the taste of luxury. The sun has just begun its slow, deliberate descent, casting long, stark shadows across the barrack yard. You've spent the day in drills, your muscles aching, your stomach a hollow drum beating a rhythm of hunger. Now, finally, it's time for the evening meal, the most anticipated moment in a Spartan's day, not for the pleasure it brings, but for the sheer necessity of survival. As you approach the Sisnisha, the communal dining hall, a familiar scent assaults your nostrils, a pungent, earthy, metallic aroma that is as much a part of Spartan life as the dust on your boots. Tonight, like every night, the menu is the same. There are no culinary delights awaiting you, no tantalizing aromas of roasted meats or sweet pastries. The very concept of delicious food is a forbidden indulgence, a weakness of the palate that the Spartan way of life ruthlessly excises. To show greed for food, to linger over a bite, to express any undue pleasure in eating fondue. These are all subtle transgressions against the strictures of Spartan discipline. You are here to fuel your body, not to satisfy your cravings. You take your assigned place on the simple wooden bench, shoulder to shoulder with your fellow soldiers. The hall is quiet, save for the low murmur of men settling in and the occasional clink of a spoon against a bowl. There is no boisterous chatter, no lively discussions of the day's events over a shared meal. Such distractions are also forbidden, diverting focus from the singular purpose of sustenance. Each man sits in disciplined silence, his gaze fixed on the simple wooden bowl before him. And then it arrives, the famous, or infamous, melis zomos, the black broth. It's placed before you with a quiet thud, a dark, viscous liquid that seems to absorb the meager light in the room. You lean closer, and the scent intensifies, a sharp, vinegary tang that pricks at your nose, mingling with the heavy, gamey smell of pig's blood and the unmistakable, almost rusty, metallic note of iron. It's a smell that promises nothing of comfort, only a grim, primal necessity. You pick up your wooden spoon, the rough, hewn handle familiar in your calloused hand. The broth is thick, almost gloopy, a dark, opaque mixture that offers no visual appeal. It's made, as you know, from boiled pig's blood, vinegar, and salt. Simple, brutal ingredients for a brutal existence. The vinegar is there to prevent the blood from coagulating too quickly, to add a preservative kick, and perhaps to make it just a little bit more challenging to swallow. You dip your spoon, scooping up a portion of the dark liquid. It's lukewarm, having simmered in the communal pot for hours, sometimes days, with new ingredients simply added on top of the old. There's no freshness here, no vibrant flavors. This is food designed for utility, not enjoyment. As you bring the spoon to your lips, the sharp vinegar hits first, a sour assault on your taste buds. Then comes the deep, earthy, almost bitter taste of the pig's blood, followed by a distinct metallic tang, like licking a cold iron spearhead. The salt is present, but not to enhance flavor. It's a harsh, functional saltiness, just enough to make the blood palatable, but certainly not pleasant. There is no chewing, no savoring. This is a mechanical act, a disciplined swallowing. The thick liquid slides down your throat, coating your mouth with its distinctive, slightly cloying texture. It's heavy, filling, but in a way that feels more like ballast than nourishment. Each spoonful is a deliberate act, a conscious choice to consume this unappetizing concoction for the strength it will provide, for the energy to face tomorrow's drills and perhaps tomorrow's battle. You hear the quiet, rhythmic scrape of spoons against wooden bowls all around you. No one speaks, no one complains. To do so would be to betray a weakness, a lack of self-control. This is a silent communion of deprivation, a shared experience of enduring the unpleasant for the greater good. The only sounds are the practical ones of eating, the occasional soft slurp, the scrape of wood, the quiet breath of men focused entirely on this singular, unglamorous task. This black broth is a constant reminder of what you are and what you are not. You are not a man of luxury, not one who seeks pleasure in food. You are a Spartan, and your body is a temple of discipline fueled by the starkest, most basic provisions. The bitterness, the sourness, the metallic tang food. These are the flavors of your training, the taste of your resolve. You finish your portion, scraping the last remnants from the bowl, feeling the heavy, satisfying weight of the broth in your stomach. It's not delicious, not even truly enjoyable, but it is sustenance. And in Sparta, sustenance is all that is permitted. The satisfaction comes not from the meal itself, but from the unwavering discipline of consuming it, day after day, year after year. It is a daily ritual of self-denial, making your palate as unyielding as your shield. As the last echoes of the broth fade from your tongue, a different kind of quiet settles over the barracks. The day is done, the meager sustenance consumed, and now comes the time for rest. But for a Spartan, rest is not synonymous with comfort. The very idea of a soft, padded bed is another forbidden luxury, a weakness that would dull the senses and soften the spirit. You are not permitted the gentle embrace of down, or the yielding cushion of a mattress. Your bed is a creation of your own hands, a testament to your rugged self-reliance, and a constant companion in discomfort. You remember the first time you were sent to the banks of the Eurotas River, the gentle, winding waterway that snakes through the heart of Laconia. The instruction was simple: gather reeds for your bed. But the method was specific and utterly Spartan. You were strictly forbidden from using any tool, thivy no knife, no blade. no implement to ease the task. Your hands and your hands alone were to be your tools. So you walked along the riverbank, the sun warm on your back, the soft murmur of the water a rare, soothing sound. You bent down, selecting the tallest, sturdiest reeds, their dry stalks rustling like whispered secrets in the breeze. And then you began the work. You gripped a reed, your fingers wrapping around its brittle stem, and you pulled. It didn't snap cleanly. Instead, it resisted, its fibers tearing and groaning before finally giving way with a crisp, dry crack. The sound was sharp, almost musical, a symphony of small triumphs over stubborn nature. Again and again you repeated the motion. Your palms grew raw, the edges of the reeds leaving faint red lines on your skin. Some stalks were sharp, pricking your fingers, embedding tiny splinters that you simply ignored. This was part of the lesson, part of the hardening process. Every broken reed was a small victory, a physical manifestation of your will over the natural world, and over your own desire for ease. You carried the bundles back to the barracks, the dry, grassy scent of them clinging to your clothes, a constant reminder of the day's labor. On Spanak, you spread the reeds on the hard, packed earth floor of your sleeping area. There was no frame, no raised platform, just the ground and your hand-gathered bed. The reeds crackled and rustled as you arranged them, forming a simple, uneven mattress. It was not soft. It was never meant to be soft. It was firm, unyielding, a surface designed to remind you, even in sleep, of the harsh realities of your existence. Each time you lay down, the rough, dry stalks pressed against your back, your sides, your limbs. You could feel the individual reeds, their rigid forms molding imperfectly to your body, a constant, subtle pressure. In the colder months, a small concession was granted. To ward off the biting chill that swept down from the mountains, you were permitted to mix a small amount of thistle into your reed bed. Thistle, with its sharp, spiny leaves. The idea was not to provide warmth through softness, but through a different kind of discomfort. The thistle's prickles would irritate the skin, stimulating circulation, creating a subtle, persistent tingle that kept the blood flowing. It was a bed that literally kept you on edge, a nightly reminder that even in sleep, vigilance and endurance were paramount. Lying on such a bed, sleep didn't come easily at first. The rustling of the dry reeds as you shifted, the faint scratching against your skin, the earthy, dry grass smell that filled your nostrils bide. These were the companions of your rest. You learned to ignore the discomfort, to find a strange kind of peace in its consistency. The bed became less a place of repose and more a training ground for the mind, a place where you practiced detaching yourself from physical sensation, allowing your thoughts to drift even as your body remained in a state of subtle tension. Each morning you would rise, feeling the imprint of the reeds on your skin, a faint pattern of lines and slight soreness. It wasn't the refreshing embrace of a soft mattress, but a bracing awakening, a physical confirmation that you had endured another night on a bed forged from hardship. Your muscles might ache, your joints might creak, but your spirit remained unsoftened. This bed of reeds, gathered with bare hands, provided no comfort, but it instilled resilience. It was a daily, nightly lesson in stoicism, a tangible representation of the Spartan ideal, to be hard, to be unyielding, to be always ready for the next challenge, and even if that challenge was simply a good night's sleep. The dry, brittle crunch under your weight was the lullaby of a Spartan's rest, a constant whisper of the rugged life you embraced. As the sun climbs higher, painting the barracks yard in shades of harsh gold. You rise from your bed of reeds, muscles protesting slightly, but your mind already sharp. The morning routine is swift and unembellished. There are no choices to be made regarding attire, no deliberations over what to wear. For a Spartan soldier, the concept of a varied wardrobe, or indeed any wardrobe beyond the absolute bare minimum, is strictly forbidden. You possess exactly one outfit, and one outfit only. The Phoenicians, your heavy red wool cloak. This isn't a cloak designed for elegance, or even for comfort in the modern sense. It's a garment of stark utility, a uniform that is both a shield and a burden. You reach for it, feeling the rough, unyielding texture of the wool. It's not the soft, luxurious merino wool that might grace a modern sweater. No, this is coarse, thick, and dense, woven from the toughest fibers, designed to withstand the rigors of Spartan life, not to coddle the skin. It feels almost stiff, like a heavy, durable canvas rather than flowing fabric. You slip it on, the familiar weight settling across your shoulders. The red color, a deep, earthy crimson, is not for decoration, but for intimidation on the battlefield, and perhaps to mask the inevitable stains of blood and dirt. This single cloak is your protection against the elements, your sole garment worn day in and day out, through the scorching heat of summer and the biting chill of winter. In the summer months, the Phoenicians becomes a heavy, oppressive burden. The thick wool, designed to trap warmth, now traps sweat against your skin. It chafes and irritates, the rough fibers rubbing against your neck, your shoulders, your arms until your skin grows accustomed to the constant friction, developing a leathery resilience. The cloak absorbs the sweat, becoming heavier, clinging to your body, and taking on a distinct, earthy smell, tibidalinolin, your own perspiration, and the ever-present dust of the training ground. You can almost hear the subtle rasp of the coarse wool against itself as you move, a dry, persistent whisper. When winter descends, the same cloak, which felt so suffocating in summer, now becomes your only defense against the cold. Yet, it offers only a partial solace. The thick wool provides some insulation, but it is far from impenetrable. The icy winds whipping down from the Tagetus Mountains find their way through the coarse weave, chilling you to the bone. The fabric, stiffened by repeated exposure to dampness and cold, feels less like a garment and more like a rigid shell. You might pull it tighter around you, feeling its rough edges press into your skin, a constant physical reminder of the Spartan ideal of enduring hardship without complaint. There is no washing this cloak with any regularity. The very idea of constant cleanliness, like constant comfort, is a foreign concept. It carries the accumulated sense of weeks, perhaps months, of wear sooty, the scent of your body, of the sheep that bore the wool, of the dust and sweat of the barracks, and the occasional tang of wood smoke from the communal fires. It is a living garment, imbued with the essence of your daily life, a second skin that tells the story of every drill, every march, every moment of endurance. The feel of the rough wool on your skin becomes deeply ingrained, a constant sensory input that you learn to filter out. Yet it is always there. It's a scratch, a weight, a texture that defines your physical experience. You develop calluses not just on your hands, but on your spirit, learning to ignore the persistent irritation to find a strength in its very discomfort. The red cloak is not just clothing, it is a symbol. It's a visible declaration of your Spartan identity, a testament to your commitment to austerity, and a constant tactile teacher of resilience. You wear it, not with pride in its appearance, for it is plain and utilitarian, but with pride in what it represents: the unwavering discipline, the rejection of softness, the unyielding spirit of a warrior. Each time you feel the coarse wool against your skin, each time you adjust its heavy folds, you are reminded that you are Spartan. This single garment, through its very nature and its constant presence, strips away vanity, reinforces identity, and ensures that even the simple act of being clothed is a continuous exercise in endurance. The rough, persistent caress of the Phoenicians is the whisper of your unyielding spirit. You find yourself in the agora, the marketplace of Sparta, though it feels strangely empty, not devoid of people. No, there are figures moving, speaking in hushed, clipped tones, their red cloaks a blur against the pale stone. But what's missing is the familiar symphony of commerce, the clinking of coins, the rustle of parchment, the eager haggling over prices, the sharp ring of a blacksmith's hammer signaling a transaction. All of it absent. Here, in Sparta, the very concept of wealth, as you understand it, has been meticulously dismantled, reshaped into something almost alien. You reach into your own pouch, an old habit, expecting to feel the smooth, cool discs of bronze or silver. But your hand closes on nothing, or perhaps on a hollow echo of what once was. For a Spartan, the pursuit of personal riches, the accumulation of gold and silver, is not merely frowned upon. It is strictly, absolutely forbidden. This isn't a suggestion. It's a foundational pillar of their society, etched into their very being. And to enforce this, to truly strip away the allure of material gain, they have a unique, almost absurd system of currency. Imagine, if you will, a world where money isn't something you carry in a small purse, but something you might need a cart or even a team of oxen to transport. This is the reality here. The currency of Sparta is not gleaming gold nor shimmering silver. It is iron, heavy, cumbersome, almost comically impractical iron. These are not elegant, stamped coins. No, these are iron spits, long, thick bars of metal, crude and industrial. They're called pellinors, and they are the antithesis of convenience. Picture them rough, hewn rods, perhaps a foot or two in length, each one weighing enough to make your arm ache after carrying just a few. They lie in piles, dull and dark, reflecting no light, holding no intrinsic beauty. The Spartans, in their relentless pursuit of austerity and equality, went even further to ensure this iron was utterly undesirable. They didn't just use iron, they made it useless. Each iron spit, after being forged, was plunged into a bath of vinegar. A sharp, acrid smell, like a sudden slap to the senses, would fill the air as the hot metal met the cold. Acidic liquid. The hiss and steam would rise, a small, violent reaction, and with it, the iron's integrity would begin to crumble. This process, called quenching, rendered the iron brittle. It became fragile, easily broken, and incapable of being reforged into anything useful. It couldn't be melted down to make tools, or weapons, or even decorative items. It was simply broken, functionally inert. A symbol of value, yes, but a value deliberately stripped of any practical utility beyond its designated role as currency. You might pick one up, feeling the surprising weight of it in your hand. It's not smooth, not polished. The vinegar treatment leaves a rough, pitted surface, an almost granular texture that catches on your fingertips. A faint metallic tang, mixed with the ghost of that sharp, sour vinegar, might linger on your skin after you put it down. It's the smell of rust, of decay, of something deliberately made less than it could be. Now imagine trying to buy something with this. A simple purchase, perhaps a small measure of grain, or a piece of rough pottery. You wouldn't hand over a few coins. You would need a bundle of these iron spits. For anything more substantial, a larger quantity of food or a new tunic, you'd be looking at a significant pile. And for something truly extravagant, like a new piece of land or a dowry, it would require a small wagon creaking under the immense weight of these brittle iron bars. The sheer impracticality of it is staggering. Think of the logistics, and to transport your wealth, you couldn't simply tuck it into your purse. You'd need a servant, perhaps, or a sturdy beast of burden. The journey would be slow, the load heavy, the clanking sound of the iron bars shifting in their cart a dull, rhythmic accompaniment to your progress. Each thud as they settle, each groan of the axles a constant reminder of the burden of money. This wasn't an oversight, it was entirely by design. The Spartans wanted to make wealth accumulation, and the greed it often fosters, physically impossible, or at least so inconvenient as to be utterly discouraging. Who would bother to hoard something so heavy, so difficult to move, so utterly useless in any other form? The result is a society where the concept of trade, as you know it, almost ceases to exist. There are no bustling markets filled with merchants shouting their wares, no intricate networks of exchange. The very act of buying and selling is a slow, laborious, almost ritualistic endeavor. Listen closely to the Spartan agora. What do you hear? The murmur of voices. Yes, but no, the sharp, clear ring of coins changing hands. Instead, perhaps you might catch the dull, heavy thud of an iron spit being dropped onto a wooden counter, or the scraping sound of a bundle of them being dragged across the stone floor. These are sounds of necessity, not of enthusiastic commerce. This absence of easy money means the absence of many other things too. No merchants eager to sell you luxuries, because there is no easy way for you to pay them, and no easy way for them to be paid. No artisans creating elaborate, intricate works, because the demand for such things driven by individual wealth is simply not there. The air in this marketplace, unlike those you know, is not filled with the sharp, exciting tang of ambition or the subtle scent of profit. Instead, it carries the earthy smell of the ground, the faint, clean scent of the wind, perhaps a hint of the rough wool cloaks worn by the citizens. It is a quiet place, a place where the pursuit of material possessions has been deliberately stifled. There is a subtle beauty in this, if you can find it. A profound quietness, a freedom from the constant hum of desire, the endless striving for more. When money is this heavy, this inconvenient, this deliberately broken, the incentives for greed simply vanish. People are forced to focus on other things, on their duty, on their training, on their community. The heavy iron spits are more than just currency. They are a physical manifestation of a philosophy. They are a constant tactile reminder that in Sparta, true value lies not in what you possess, but in what you are and what you do for the collective. So, as you walk through this silent market, feel the weight of that philosophy in the air, a burden as real and as palpable as the iron itself. It is a heavy quiet, a deliberate stillness designed to foster a different kind of strength. And as you imagine lifting a handful of those iron bars, You can almost feel the strain, the sheer physical effort required to simply have wealth here, and understand why so few would even bother trying. The rough surface, the dull sound, the sheer laborious inconvenience of it all, a truly effective prohibition. As your journey through Spartan life continues, you turn your attention to the structures around you, the homes. They stand stout and unyielding against the backdrop of the mountains. But there's something distinctly different about them, something that speaks of a deliberate rejection of refinement, of anything that might be considered decorative or luxurious. In Sparta, even the construction of a house, a fundamental human need, is subject to strict, almost brutal regulations. The goal isn't comfort, or beauty, or even individual expression. The goal is utility, strength, and a stark reminder of communal values. Imagine attempting to build a home, but with your hands tied, figuratively, behind your back. You are allowed only the most basic, the most primary of tools, for shaping the massive beams that form the roof, for felling the trees and squaring the logs. You are permitted only the axe. The heavy, blunt force of the axe, splitting wood, shaping it with broad, powerful strokes. Think of the sound of it, the deep, resonant thud as the axe head cleaves into a thick log. A sound of raw power, of unrefined effort. The wood groans, then splits, not with the delicate precision of a saw, but with a tearing, rending force. Each swing is a commitment, a statement of intent, leaving behind a surface that is rugged, scarred, and entirely unpolished. The roof beams, when finally in place, bear these marks. You can almost see the individual axe strokes, the slight irregularities, the places where the blade bit deeper or slid slightly off course. It's a testament to brute force, to the sheer muscular effort required, not to careful craftsmanship. And for the doors, the entryways that guard your humble dwelling, only the saw is permitted. The long, rhythmic rasp of the saw blade tearing through wood fibers, creating a relatively straight, but still rough edge. It's a sound that speaks of slow, deliberate work, a back and forth motion, a steady application of pressure. What is conspicuously absent from the Spartan builder's toolkit? The plane, the chisel, the sanding block. Any tool designed to smooth, to refine, to polish, any instrument that could transform rough timber into a sleek, elegant surface. These are forbidden, as are any carving tools, any implements that might allow for decorative flourishes, for intricate patterns, for any kind of aesthetic embellishment. The result is a landscape of homes that are uniform in their rugged simplicity. They are not adorned. They do not boast of individual wealth or artistic talent. They simply are, made from the raw, unyielding materials of the land, shaped by the most basic of human endeavors. Walk up to one of these houses. Your fingers instinctively reach out to touch the wooden walls. They are not smooth, far from it. You feel the grain of the wood raised and rough. Your fingertips trace the path of the axe, the unevenness of the cuts. You might even feel the sharp prick of a splinter, a tiny, insistent reminder of the wood's untamed nature. The surfaces are coarse, abrasive. There's no gentle glide of hand across a polished beam. Instead, it's a tactile experience of resistance, of raw, fibrous material. The wood isn't just a building material. It is a constant physical presence, asserting its untamed character. Imagine the interior of such a home. The walls are not plastered smooth, not painted or decorated. They are simply the exposed logs chinked with mud or clay to keep out the drafts. The ceiling, if you look up, would be the underside of those axe-hewn roof beams, sturdy and functional, but devoid of any finish. The air inside these homes carries a distinct scent. It's the deep, earthy smell of raw wood, not the refined, processed scent of cut lumber, but the rich, resinous aroma of living trees, freshly felled. A scent that speaks of the forest, of bark and sap, of something wild brought indoors. It might be mixed with the more domestic smells of cooking fires and bodies, but the underlying bass note is always that of unadorned timber. This deliberate lack of refinement extends to every corner of the dwelling. The doors, cut with only a saw, would fit imperfectly into their frames. There would be gaps, slight misalignments. They might creak with a dry, grating sound as they open and close, a sound of wood rubbing against wood, unlubricated by precision. The floors, too, would be simple packed earth, or perhaps rough-hewn planks, again unpolished and uneven. Walking across them, your bare feet would feel every bump, every slight depression, every coarse grain of the wood or the compacted earth. It is a grounding sensation, a constant connection to the raw material of the world. This Spartan approach to housing isn't about deprivation for its own sake, although it certainly feels like it to your modern sensibilities. It is about preventing the rise of luxury, of individual ostentation. If every house is built with the same basic tools, using the same rough methods, then no one can boast of a grander dwelling than their neighbor. There is no room for architectural competition, for displays of wealth through elaborate construction. It fosters a sense of equality, a shared experience of rugged simplicity. When you look at your neighbor's house, it mirrors your own in its unadorned strength. It reminds everyone that the focus is not on personal comfort or status, but on the collective, on the rigorous demands of Spartan life. The sounds of building in Sparta would have been primal. The rhythmic thud of the axe, the steady rasp of the saw. No delicate tapping of hammers on chisels, no smooth swish of planes. Just the raw, honest sounds of wood being shaped by muscle and force. These sounds, echoing through the Spartan valley, would have been a constant testament to a society that valued strength and utility above all else. A society that found beauty not in refinement, but in the unyielding, unpolished truth of the material world. And as you imagine running your hand along those splintery walls, inhaling the deep scent of resinous timber, you understand that even your home here is a lesson in Spartan discipline, a constant tactile reminder of what is forbidden and what is truly valued. As the sun dips below the jagged peaks of the Tagetus Mountains, casting long, stark shadows across the plain, a different kind of quiet descends upon Sparta. It is not merely the quiet of evening, but a profound, almost absolute stillness, punctuated by only the most natural of sounds. You, as a Spartan soldier, are about to embark on a night patrol, or perhaps merely move from one barracks to another. But there is a crucial element missing from your preparations, something you would instinctively reach for in any other city, in any other time. There are no torches, no flickering flames to guide your way, no pools of light to dispel the encroaching darkness. In Sparta, the use of fire for illumination during night travel is strictly forbidden for soldiers. This isn't just about saving resources. It is a deliberate, rigorous training regimen designed to hone your senses, to make you intimately familiar with the nuances of the night. So, As the last vestiges of twilight fade, you find yourself plunged into a deep, velvety blackness. Your pupils dilate, straining to capture any stray photon of moonlight, any faint outline against the deeper dark. At first, it is disorienting. The familiar shapes of buildings, the contours of the path, all melt into an undifferentiated void. A subtle tension tightens in your jaw, a slight clench in your stomach as your brain grapples with the sudden loss of visual input. But this disorientation is precisely the point. You are forced to rely on other senses, senses that in your previous life might have atrophied from disuse. Your ears become acutely attuned. The rustle of dry leaves caught by a stray breeze becomes a significant event. The distant hoot of an owl, the faint chirping of crickets. These sounds are no longer background noise. They become markers, guides, whispers in the vast silence. Your feet become your eyes. You learn to walk not by sight, but by touch. Each step is a deliberate act of exploration. The soles of your feet, toughened by years of training in rough terrain, become sensitive instruments. You feel the subtle variations in the ground beneath you, the gritty texture of a gravel path, the smooth, cool surface of a large stone, the yielding softness of packed earth, the sudden dip of an uneven flagstone. Imagine the sensation, the slight give, as your foot lands on a patch of loose dirt, the firm resistance of a well-trodden track, the almost imperceptible shift in angle as the path gently curves. Your toes spread, grasping, assessing the terrain before committing your full weight. It's a dance of constant micro-adjustments, a silent conversation between your body and the unseen ground. The sound of your own footsteps becomes critical. You learn to walk with an almost supernatural quietness. Each footfall is measured, controlled. The soft padding of leather sandals on dust, the faint crunch of a pebble underfoot thee. These are sounds you strive to minimize, to eliminate. The goal is to move like a shadow, like a predator in the night, unseen and unheard. The air itself takes on a new significance. Without the visual distractions, your sense of smell sharpens. The cool, clean scent of night air, perhaps carrying the faint, earthy aroma of distant fields, or the dry, mineral tang of stone. A sudden shift in the wind might bring the faint, acrid smell of a distant cooking fire, or the musky scent of a nearby animal. These are not merely smells, they are navigational cues, subtle indicators of your surroundings. The Spartan city at night is transformed. There are no flickering lamps illuminating the streets, no warm glows spilling from windows. Instead, there is only the vast expanse of the night sky, perhaps a sliver of moon casting weak, silver light, or the brilliant cold sparkle of 1,000 stars. Shadows stretch long and deep, swallowing everything, making familiar objects appear monstrous or utterly vanish. You learn to read these shadows to understand their deceptive nature. A deeper shade of black might indicate a doorway, a slightly lighter patch, a wall. Your eyes, though deprived of direct light, learn to interpret the subtle differences in the absence of light. This enforced darkness isn't just about physical navigation. It is about a profound psychological conditioning. It cultivates patience, self-reliance, and an almost preternatural awareness. It strips away the comforting illusions of light and forces you to confront the raw reality of your environment. It teaches you to trust your instincts, to rely on the interconnectedness of your senses. Imagine the profound silence that permeates these night walks. Without the sounds of bustling activity, without the visual cues that often accompany human presence, the world seems to hold its breath. You might hear the distant cry of a nocturnal bird, the soft whisper of the wind through dry grass, or perhaps the steady rhythmic beat of your own heart in your ears. This silence is not empty. It is full of information if you know how to listen. There's a strange, almost meditative quality to it. The focus required to navigate in absolute darkness becomes a form of mindfulness. Your mind is entirely engaged in the present moment, in the immediate sensations of your body and your surroundings. There is no room for distraction, for idle thoughts, for anxieties about tomorrow. Only the next step, the next breath, the next subtle shift in the ground beneath your feet. This constant training in darkness prepares a Spartan soldier for the battlefield. Night operations, ambushes, silent movements behind enemy lines. These are not daunting tasks for men who have spent their lives learning to see without eyes, to hear without sound, to move through the world as if they were part of its very fabric. The lack of a torch is not a hindrance, it is a weapon. It renders you invisible, silent, a ghost in the night. And as you feel the cool, rough texture of the ground beneath your feet, as your ears strain for the faintest sound, as your body instinctively adjusts to the unseen terrain, you understand that this enforced blindness is in fact a path to a deeper, more profound form of seeing, a mastery over the darkness itself. It is a quiet, demanding lesson in survival, etched into every fiber of your being by the silent sensory symphony of a Spartan night. In the quiet, austere world of ancient Sparta, a soldier was strictly forbidden from speaking any unnecessary words. This wasn't merely a suggestion for polite conversation. It was a foundational pillar of their society, a discipline etched into the very fabric of their being from birth. The word laconic itself, meaning concise and brief, derives from Laconia, the region where Sparta lay. To be laconic was to be Spartan. Imagine a city where idle chatter was a foreign concept, where the air wasn't filled with the usual hum of gossip, rhetorical flourishes, or drawn out debates. In Sparta, words were currency, precious and not to be squandered. A conversation might consist of a direct question, a simple yes, or an equally stark no. Lengthy explanations were considered a sign of weakness, a failure to distill thought to its purest essence. There were no flowery greetings, no elaborate farewells, just the blunt exchange of necessary information. Picture a gathering in the Syssitia, the communal dining halls, the clink of a spoon against a bowl, the rustle of rough woolen tunics, the rhythmic sound of swallowing the infamous Black Broth food. These were the dominant sounds, but the human voice, usually the most prominent feature of any social setting, was muted. A soldier might ask for a refill of his pottage with a single guttural sound, or indicate his satisfaction with a nod. The silence wasn't awkward. It was a profound, almost palpable presence, as solid and unyielding as the Spartan phalanx itself. It was a silence born of intense focus of a mind trained to operate with maximum efficiency, uncluttered by verbal noise. Feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere when a Spartan did speak. Each word carried weight, an unspoken force behind it. The very rarity of speech made every utterance significant. When a commander issued an order, it was often a single sharp command understood instantly, without question or elaboration. The lack of discussion meant the expectation of immediate, unquestioning obedience. There was no need for emphasis, no raising of the voice. The words themselves were enough. Consider the sensation of holding your tongue, of biting back the impulse to elaborate, to justify, to complain. Your throat might feel dry, your jaw slightly tensed from the constant internal editing. The air between individuals was thick with unspoken intentions, with thoughts that remained private, perhaps even dangerous, but never voiced. This wasn't merely about politeness, it was about control. Control over one's own impulses, over one's own ego, over the very human need to express. The silence extended beyond direct communication. There were no poets reciting lengthy epics in the public squares, no philosophers engaging in intricate logical arguments. The Spartan education, agog, was designed to produce warriors, not orators. Children were taught to be concise from a young age, their responses scrutinized for any unnecessary words. Imagine the quiet of a Spartan home, where even family members communicated with an economy of language that would feel stark to outsiders. The wind rustling through the olive trees, the distant bleating of sheep, the rhythmic sounds of daily chores and bee. These were the background symphony of Spartan life, unbroken by the ceaseless chatter found elsewhere. This laconic silence wasn't just about brevity, it was about depth. When words were so scarce, the unspoken gained immense power. A glance, a gesture, a subtle shift in posture fist. These became sophisticated forms of communication, understood by those who shared the same rigorous training. It was a language of the body, honed by years of discipline, a silent dialogue that bypassed the need for verbose explanations. It allowed for a different kind of connection, one rooted in shared experience and unspoken understanding, rather than verbal exchange. The result was a society that felt perpetually on edge, not with anxiety, but with a kind of coiled readiness. Every individual was perpetually alert, attentive to the subtle cues that replaced verbal discourse. This constant state of heightened awareness, fostered by the absence of distracting noise, made them formidable. They didn't need to debate tactics, they executed them. They didn't need to express fear, they suppressed it. And they certainly didn't need to waste their breath on anything other than what was absolutely essential for the survival and glory of Sparta. The echo of minimal sentences, the soft whoosh of air as a speaker paused for an extended moment, the almost imperceptible sound of one's own breathing in the long silences. These were the auditory hallmarks of a life lived without the luxury or the burden of unnecessary words. It was a silence that demanded attention, a quiet that spoke volumes. A Spartan soldier was strictly forbidden from indulging in the elaborate bathing rituals, or fragrant perfumes common in many other ancient cultures. Forget the perfumed oils of Athens, the intricate anointing ceremonies of Egypt, or the luxurious public baths of Rome. For a Spartan, cleanliness was not about pleasure or vanity. It was a functional, almost brutal, act designed to harden the body and strip away any hint of softness. Their daily ritual was a stark testament to this philosophy, a simple application of olive oil, a roll in the dust, and then a vigorous scraping with a metal strigil. Imagine the feel of the olive oil itself. It wasn't infused with exotic scents or blended with rare spices. It was pure, unadulterated olive oil, pressed from the local groves with a simple, earthy, slightly bitter aroma. As you poured it into your palm, it would feel cool and viscous, then warm quickly against your skin. The slippery sensation as you massaged it over your arms, chest, and legs was momentarily soothing, a brief respite from the constant abrasions of rough wool and hard ground. It coated your skin, creating a thin, protective layer, but also making you feel slick, almost animalistic, ready for the rigors of the day. Then came the dust, not the carefully prepared powders or cosmetic talcs of other lands, but the ordinary gritty dust of the training grounds, the earth itself. You would bend, perhaps even roll, in the fine, dry soil, allowing the particles to adhere to the oiled surface of your skin. Feel the dry, cool sensation of the dust as it clung, turning your glistening body into a muted earthen sculpture. It would get into the creases of your elbows and knees, settle on the fine hairs of your arms, and coat your entire being in a uniform matte layer. The scent would be a primal mix. The simple, green aroma of olive oil, now mingled with the dry, mineral tang of the earth, the subtle saltiness of your own sweat. It was the scent of the land, of the battlefield, of a body utterly connected to its environment, unadorned and unashamed. The final and perhaps most characteristic step was the strigil. This was a curved metal blade, typically made of bronze or iron, designed to scrape away the oil, the accumulated dirt, sweat, and dead skin. As you took the strigil in hand, feel its cool, hard weight, the slight curve fitting the contours of your body. Place the edge against your shoulder, angle it just so, and pull downwards with firm, deliberate pressure. Listen to the sound it makes, a distinctive shush, a scrape, a rasping sound as the metal glides over your oil dust-covered skin. It's not a gentle sound, it's a purposeful, almost aggressive sound of cleansing. You can feel the resistance of the accumulated grime, the satisfying sensation as it is lifted away in thick, grayish streaks. The strigil isn't designed for comfort, it is designed for efficiency. It is like polishing a piece of armor, a ritual of preparing the body for its singular purpose. Each stroke would leave a clean, slightly reddened path on your skin, a stark contrast to the grimy residue being pushed away. The sound would become a rhythmic, almost hypnotic accompaniment to the cleansing, a dry, metallic whisper against your skin. Imagine the repetitive motion, scraping your arms, then your chest, your stomach, your back, if you could reach, or with the help of a comrade. The rhythmic shush, scrape, would fill the air, a constant reminder of the Spartan dedication to austerity. Your skin, once slippery and dusty, would now feel taut, invigorated, perhaps a little raw. It wasn't the soft, perfumed skin of a pampered citizen. It was the resilient, hardened skin of a warrior, accustomed to friction, to the elements, to the rigorous demands of military life. There were no soft towels to wrap yourself in, no scented soaps to lather. The water, if used at all, would be cold, drawn from a nearby river or well, a shock to the system rather than a luxurious soak. This entire ritual was a deliberate rejection of softness, of anything that might make the body less resilient. The earthy smell of sweat and dust, mingled with the simple aroma of olive oil, was the true perfume of a Spartan. It was a scent that spoke not of refinement, but of strength, discipline, and an unyielding connection to the harsh realities of their existence. It was the smell of a body honed, not pantered, ready for the next challenge, a scent of raw, unadulterated humanity. In the harsh crucible of Spartan society, a soldier was strictly forbidden from openly displaying emotion in public. Whether facing the agony of the whip, the crushing grief of a comrade's death, or the fleeting joy of victory, the face of a Spartan was expected to remain a mask of indifference, a visage carved from stone. This wasn't merely a social expectation. It was a profound psychological discipline, a constant battle waged within the self to control the most primal human responses. Imagine the tension held within the jaw, the subtle clenching of teeth that would become second nature. Your facial muscles would be trained to remain still, unyielding, even as a surge of pain or sorrow threatened to contort them. There was no room for a wince, a sob, a wide grin, or a furrowed brow of despair in the public eye. Every expression of inner turmoil was to be suppressed, buried deep beneath a practiced calm. The eyes, though, might hold a flicker, a depth of feeling that the rest of the face denied, but even that was to be controlled, kept steady and unwavering. Consider the infamous ritual of the diamastagosis, the annual whipping ceremony held at the altar of Artemis Orthia. Young boys and sometimes men were subjected to brutal floggings, often to the point of collapse or even death. Picture the scene, the rhythmic crack of the leather whip cutting through the air, followed by the sickening thud as it landed on bare flesh, the sharp, tearing sound of skin breaking, the sight of blood blooming on backs and shoulders. Yet, amidst this horrific spectacle, there was an eerie silence from the one enduring the punishment. No screams, no cries, no pleas for mercy. The only sounds allowed were the whip itself and perhaps the collective, almost suffocating solemnity of the onlookers. Feel the intense pressure to maintain this composure. Your entire being would be focused on control, the muscles of your face frozen, your breath held in, your eyes unwavering. The pain would be a roaring fire within, but externally, you were an unmoving statue. The ache in your jaw from clenching your teeth, the involuntary tremor in your limbs that you fought to suppress, the burning sensation in your eyes that threatened to spill tears. All these internal battles were waged in absolute silence, unseen by the crowd. This was the ultimate test of Spartan fortitude, a public declaration that the body could be mastered, that pain was a mere sensation, not a master. The air would be thick with unspoken tension, the only audible sounds the sharp, brutal whiz, crack of the whip and the almost imperceptible intake of breath from the disciplined recipient. This emotional stoicism extended to all aspects of life. On the battlefield, witnessing a comrade fall, perhaps a friend with whom you had shared years of training and hardship, your face would remain impassive. There would be no overt expressions of grief, no wailing, no desperate cries. The loss would be acknowledged with a quiet resolve, a hardening of the gaze, a renewed focus on the task at hand. The collective purpose, the survival of the phalanx, the honor of Sparta, superseded individual sorrow. Any tears would be shed in the deepest privacy, if at all, away from the judging eyes of your peers. The internal wrench of loss would be there, a cold knot in the gut, but it would remain hidden, a private burden. Even moments of triumph were met with a restrained dignity. A victory in battle, a success in the Olympic Games, a personal achievement fine-eyed. These were not occasions for unrestrained revelry or boastful displays. A quiet nod, a solemn acknowledgement, perhaps a brief, almost imperceptible tightening of the lips that might pass for a smile. The Spartans believed that excessive joy, like excessive sorrow, made one vulnerable, exposed a weakness that could be exploited. The fleeting moment of pride was quickly subsumed by the overarching discipline, the constant readiness for the next challenge. The atmosphere around a Spartan was often one of intense discipline and suppressed energy. The lack of emotional outburst created a constant, almost palpable tension in the air. It was a world where feelings were not denied, but rigorously controlled, directed inward or transformed into an unyielding will. This practice of wearing an emotions of stone face was not about truly becoming emotionless, but about mastering the external manifestation of those emotions, ensuring that one's inner world remained impenetrable, a fortress against both pain and pleasure. This made them formidable, predictable in their resolve, and terrifyingly calm in the face of any challenge. The silent, suffocating solemnity of a crowd witnessing an act of extreme endurance, the only sound the whips crack or the winds whisper, served as a constant reminder of the unyielding discipline of the Spartan way, a testament to the power of the controlled self. Imagine a life where your hands, though strong and capable, were strictly forbidden from the most fundamental acts of creation. You, a full Spartan citizen, a Spartiate, were barred from engaging in any form of manual labor. This wasn't a privilege of modern leisure, but a profound prohibition, a deliberate emptiness woven into the very fabric of your days. The fields that fed you, the clothes that covered you, the pots that held your black broth tour, all were the product of other hands. The helots subjugated people whose unceasing toil defined your freedom from it. Your existence was singular, to be a soldier, nothing more, nothing less. So, what did you do with your time? You didn't feel the rich soil crumble between your fingers as you plowed the earth. You didn't coax seeds into life, nor did you harvest the golden grains under the warm Aegean sun. Your hands never knew the rough grain of wood as you shaped a beam, or the searing heat of the forge as you hammered iron, sparks flying like tiny, ephemeral stars. You weren't a potter, molding clay into elegant functional forms, nor a weaver, creating intricate patterns on a loom, the shuttle moving with rhythmic precision, the quiet hum of a craftsman's workshop, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer on anvil, the gentle murmur of merchants haggling over prices in the market. These sounds were not part of your daily soundscape. They were the sounds of others, a world you were deliberately kept apart from, a world of intricate, productive noise that simply did not touch your ears. Instead, your days were often an exercise in waiting for the call to the training ground, where the sharp commands of your instructors would break the silence, waiting for the assembly, where the fate of Sparta might be debated in terse, laconic phrases, waiting for the next meal in the Syssitia, the communal dining hall, where the ritual of eating was as disciplined as any military drill. Picture yourself sitting on a cool, smooth stone bench in the agora, the public square, but not to buy or sell. You are simply there observing. The sun arcs slowly across the vast blue sky, its warmth a familiar comforting weight on your shoulders. You watch the shadows lengthen, then shrink, then lengthen again, tracing the deliberate passage of hours across the ancient stones. There's a profound stillness in the air, a peculiar quiet that descends upon a city where the bustling, often noisy sounds of commerce are largely absent. No carts laden with goods rumbling down cobbled streets, their wooden wheels groaning. No street criers loudly hawking their wares, their voices echoing. No animated chatter of bargaining, no clinking of coins. Just the distant bleating of a goat, perhaps, or the soft, almost imperceptible whisper of wind through the ancient olive trees on the surrounding hills. This leisurely emptiness was not a vacation. It was a constant, almost meditative reminder of your singular purpose. Your hands were reserved for the spear, the shield, the wrestling hold. They were instruments of war, not tools of creation. The absence of productive labor meant a lack of the small, satisfying rhythms of daily work. No steady thud of a hoe breaking ground, no gentle whir of a spinning wheel, no focused concentration on a delicate craft. Just the expanse of time, sometimes heavy with expectation, sometimes light with quiet observation, but always present, always flowing. You might find yourself observing the precise, almost balletic movements of a fellow Spartan practicing his drills in the distance. The glint of sun on his polished bronze helmet, the controlled power in his stance as he lunges and recovers. Or perhaps you simply gaze at the distant, rugged mountains, their ancient peaks unchanging, a stoic backdrop to your unchanging life. The world around you moves, but your personal sphere of action outside of the military remains remarkably still. This stillness, this quiet waiting, could be deeply hypnotic. The way the light shifts and dances on the ancient stones, the slow, almost imperceptible drift of a cloud across the vast blue canvas of the sky, the subtle passage of hours marked only by the lengthening of shadows. It's a life devoid of the frantic energy of building, buying, or selling, leaving a vast, quiet space for contemplation. Or perhaps for the subtle, ever-present hum of unspoken readiness. Your mind, too, was forbidden from the complexities of trade, the intricate calculations of profit and loss, the anxieties of provision. Your provisions were given, your needs met, not by your own hands in the market, but by the rigid, unwavering structure of your society. This created a peculiar kind of mental quietude, a freedom from the daily grind of economic survival, yet also a confinement within the precise, unvarying boundaries of a prescribed existence. You simply existed, waiting, poised, a silent guardian of the state. Now, imagine the stark contrast of movement, but movement so utterly disciplined, it becomes a different kind of stillness, a moving quietude. When the Spartan army marched, it was not a chaotic rabble, not a cacophony of individual shouts and footsteps. It was a single, breathing entity, moved by an invisible, yet utterly compelling rhythm. You were strictly forbidden from breaking this rhythm, from stepping out of sync, from allowing your individual pace to disrupt the collective flow. This wasn't just about order. It was about transforming thousands of separate bodies into one colossal, unstoppable force, a living wall of bronze and will. The sound that guided you was not the booming voice of a commander, nor the piercing blare of a trumpet designed to startle and excite. It was the low, steady, almost mournful sound of the olos, a double-reeded flute. Picture the flutists, perhaps a disciplined row of them, their cheeks slightly puffed, their fingers dancing across the stops, producing a melody that was simple, repetitive, and deeply hypnotic. It wasn't music for dancing or celebration. It was music for marching, for moving as one, for forging an unbreakable bond between each man. The notes would rise and fall in a gentle, almost droning pattern, a constant, unobtrusive presence in the air, a sonic thread weaving through the entire formation. As the aulos played, you would feel the ground beneath your feet. Not just your own footsteps, but the synchronized thud of thousands of sandals and boots hitting the earth simultaneously. It was like a giant heartbeat, a deep, resonant pulse that vibrated through the very ground, up through your legs and into your chest. Thump, 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 thump. The sound would build, an insistent, rhythmic drumbeat created not by instruments, but by human feet, by collective will. Your own body would instinctively fall into this cadence, your muscles anticipating each step. Your left foot would land precisely when the man to your left's left foot landed, and the man to your right foot would follow suit, a perfect echo, a mirror image of the hundreds of men beside and behind you. The soft rustle of your red wool cloak, the subtle clink of your bronze shield against your neighbor's, the gentle creak of leather straps and harnesses. All these tiny sounds would merge into the overarching rhythm. There was no individual clatter, no isolated jingle of armor to break the spell. Everything was absorbed into the collective beat, becoming part of the larger symphony of the phalanx. You would feel yourself becoming part of something much larger than yourself, your individual will dissolving into the shared purpose of the formation. Your mind, usually so focused on discipline and readiness, would find itself lulled by this monotonous, all-encompassing rhythm. The world outside the formation might blur, the scenery passing by in a steady, unchanging flow, almost like a dream. This was a collective hypnosis, a walking meditation on a grand scale. Each step was not a choice, but an inevitability, a preordained movement within a vast, living machine. Your body, trained since childhood for this very purpose, knew this rhythm better than your own name. The drone of the alos, the relentless thud of thousands of feet, the subtle, almost imperceptible swaying of the formation as it moved like a single, colossal organism across the landscape. You would breathe in time with it. Your heart would beat in time with it. A powerful shared pulse. There was a profound sense of security in this unity, a feeling of invincibility that came from being an indistinguishable part of an unstoppable force. The world outside the phalanx, with its individual desires and distractions, faded away, leaving only the steady, measured advance, guided by the ancient, hypnotic song of the flute. Even the sounds of nature, the chirping of distant birds or the rustling of leaves in the trees, would seem to bend and integrate into this powerful human-made rhythm, becoming part of the invisible pulse of the Spartan march, carrying you forward, steadily, relentlessly. Finally, let us consider the ultimate prohibition, one that touches upon the very essence of memory and legacy, a final act of letting go. When a Spartan died, the vast majority were strictly forbidden from having their name carved onto a tombstone. This was not an oversight, not a lack of resources, but a deliberate act, a profound final expression of the Spartan ideal. Only 2 exceptions were allowed: a man who fell gloriously in battle, defending Sparta with his life, and a woman who died in childbirth, giving new life to the state, ensuring its future. For all others, for those who lived long lives and died quietly in their beds, or succumbed to illness, or simply faded away from old age, their graves remain nameless. Imagine a Spartan cemetery, not with towering monuments or elaborate, boastful epitaphs, but with rows of simple, unadorned stones. The ground would be flat, perhaps covered in wild grasses swaying gently, almost mournfully in the breeze. There would be no stories etched in stone, no dates of birth and death, no loving tributes from family members to read and ponder. Just the earth and a marker that signifies here lies a Spartan, but not which Spartan. The individual memory was subsumed by the collective, the personal identity absorbed back into the state that had defined it. As you walk slowly through such a place, the silence would be profound, almost palpable. It is a silence not just of the dead, but of the unremembered, a quiet void where personal history might otherwise have been proclaimed. There is no rustle of leaves from a tree specifically planted in remembrance, no faded inscription to trace with your finger, no story to decipher, just the wind whispering through the dry grass, carrying no names, no echoes of specific lives, only the sound of nature's endless cycle. The stones are smooth, worn by time and weather, indistinguishable from one another, like ancient, silent teeth in the earth. They speak of a life lived, of a Spartan existence, but not of who lived it or what their unique journey entailed. This prohibition created a clean, almost stark void where personal legacy might otherwise have flourished. Your life, so rigorously disciplined, so utterly dedicated to the state, culminated in this final act of anonymity. You were part of the machine in life, and in death, you return to the earth without leaving a personal mark, unless your death directly served the state's highest, most sacred ideals. It is a powerful statement of extreme minimalism, a final shedding of individual identity, a complete surrender. Think of the stark contrast to other ancient cultures where elaborate tombs and detailed epitaphs proclaimed the deeds, virtues, and lineage of the deceased. Here, there was only the quiet acceptance of disappearance, of merging back into the vast, anonymous tapestry of history. Your name spoken in life would eventually fade from memory, leaving only the abstract, powerful concept of a Spartan, the very idea of an individual's unique journey, their personal triumphs and struggles, their joys and sorrows, was deliberately erased from the public record of death, deemed irrelevant to the larger purpose. The feeling in such a place might be one of profound peace, a sense of ultimate letting go, or perhaps a lingering, gentle sense of the ephemeral nature of human existence. The sun would warm the stones, the rain would wash over them, and the seasons would turn year after year without a single name to mark the passage of time, only the passage of the earth itself. It was a final, complete surrender of the self to the greater whole, a last silent salute to the Spartan way, an ultimate sacrifice of individuality for the collective. Your existence, as hard and unyielding as iron in life, became as traceless and ephemeral as the wind in death, a part of the earth, unburdened by memory. A profound, almost spiritual quietude settles upon this landscape of the unremembered, inviting you to simply be, to let go, and to find your own quiet rest in the vast, silent expanse of history. Now, as these ancient images and sounds begin to gently fade, let your own thoughts drift. Feel the comforting weight of the blanket, the softness of your pillow beneath your head. Allow your breathing to deepen, to slow, becoming as steady and rhythmic as the Spartan march, a gentle, soothing pulse. Let the quiet sounds of the night around you, the gentle hums and whispers, carry you further into comfort and tranquility. Your journey through ancient Sparta is complete. There's nothing more to do, nowhere else to be. Just rest. Let your body relax heavy and still against your bed. Let your mind quiet, drifting like a leaf on a calm stream, floating gently towards sleep. Sleep now and find your own peaceful, untroubled rest